Okay, so we are here at a meeting with the candidates. This meeting is being recorded for the Facebook web page. And as I said, today is going to go a little bit more informally than the actual election next week. So the idea today is that all the candidates have an opportunity to talk briefly, and I'm going to give each one 3 minutes just to propose their ideas. And then after each introduction, I'm gonna open the floor for questions. Before we start, I would ask, does anyone want to read the PSAC anti-harassment statement for me? If not, okay, I see Riley. Okay, go ahead, please, Riley.
Thanks, Carlos. Do you want me to share my screen with it or just read it?
I just allowed you to share the screen, please.
Okay. Okay, our union is made strong by working together to improve our working lives and to preserve the rights that we have struggled to achieve. Mutual respect is the cornerstone of this corporation. The PSAC Constitution states that every member is entitled to be free from discrimination and harassment, both in the union and at the workplace, on the basis of age, sex, color, national or ethnic origin, race, religion, marital status, family status, criminal record, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, language, social and economic class, or political belief. Members are also entitled to be free from personal harassment. If you experience harassment in this event, contact the identified anti-harassment resource person to discuss the situation and possible responses. Our initial approach is to encourage early and informal resolution and to facilitate our members speaking directly with one another to resolve the matter. If this is not successful or possible, the constitutional and policy mandates on the issue of harassment will be fully and quickly enforced. Harassment in all its forms detracts from our common purpose and weakens our union. Let each one of us, as we work together on the important task at hand, treat each other with dignity and respect. And the anti-harassment resource person in this case would be Wes, our current president.
Thanks, Riley. So I just sent everyone Wes's email in case anyone has any situation going on in terms of harassment at your workplace. And now I would like to invite anyone to volunteer to read the land acknowledgement, please. Okay, Wes, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Carlos. I'm going to play the land acknowledgement here. Can you just make sure, let me know if you cannot hear it.
We acknowledge that Western University is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape-Wauk, and Attawandaron peoples, on lands connected to the London Township and Sombra Treaties of 1796 and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum. This land continues to be home to diverse Indigenous peoples, whom we recognize as contemporary stewards of the land and vital contributors of our society.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thanks, Wes. Just before we start, I would like to remind everyone that we still have positions with no candidates. So at this point, we have no one running for Chief Steward in Social Science or the postdoc chair. For the other positions, we have at least one candidate. But again, if you're interested, feel free to put your nomination forward. Okay, so as I said, each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. And then after each one, I'm going to open the floor for questions. And we're going to follow the sequence that we have in the email that I sent you today. And the first person, we only have one candidate for the presidency, and that's Wes Robinson. So Wes, take it away.
Thank you very much, Carlos. So I did give a somewhat detailed explanation of what I've done in the past 4 years that I've been involved with the union. When I was a steward, a chief steward, the administrative chair, and now the president. So I think what I'd like to talk about now is what we're planning on doing going forward if I get reelected and this executive can work towards. And so one of the big things that happened, obviously, that we're all aware of is the COVID-19 pandemic that, locked us all out. We had to make some dramatic changes this year to be able to continue our employment, continue to get paid, but do that in a safe manner. And that's one of the first things we did with our union office, is made sure we could transition to a virtual office. That we've done the administrative chair did a fantastic job working with the staff and myself. But I do foresee and hope for a future where we're back in person, where we can see each other. And so that, I think, is another task that we're going to have to put together towards safely transitioning our office back to in person. It might not be soon. We want to make sure that it's completely safe for the staff, completely safe for the members, but it will be something that we'll need to start working towards. I also think this is an important year for the executive for next year, in that we want to hold the employer to the new gains we just made in the collective agreement. So we ratified the post-doc collective agreement, we ratified the TA collective agreement, and we made some significant gains. And I think this is an important year for us to make sure we hold the university to those. I also think it's a very important year for benefits. That's maybe one of the most important things we can do, is provide these benefits to the members. And this year especially, we want to make sure that they're available to everybody who needs them. So we're going to put a lot of mobilization efforts forward so that we can ensure people have access, people know what the benefits are, people know how to apply, that we're really removing any barriers, as many barriers as we can, to make it accessible. Because I mean, there were benefits, there were services that were needed that individuals couldn't even go to because of the lockdown, but also there was hurdles along the way. So we want to make sure that this is most accessible to our members, most understood by our members, and that's going to be a big mobilization effort going forward. And then another important thing is, Carlos, am I getting close to time? Sorry.
Yeah, you just hit it.
Okay, perfect. Well, then, you know what I'm going to say? I think we have a strong and capable executive last year, and I think we're in good standing to do that next year. And I would really appreciate your support for presidency.
Thanks, Wes. Okay, the floor is open for questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. Varun, please go ahead.
Thanks, Wes. We've had chats about this before, informally in the different, but just a quick, maybe not a question, but let's just discuss this here now. So as pointed out that, hold on, let me just turn on my camera. Yeah. So we made significant gains, as you pointed out, as a collective in our last bargaining session. But now we said at least over the next year, we need to now hold the university accountable for what they have promised us. Now, how can we ensure, how do we ensure, accountability from the university side? What are the mechanisms? I'm just trying to understand it. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Varun. So I think there's two ways. There's two basically things we can do. First, be proactive, and second, be reactive to it. So I think our executive has already gone ahead and started to be proactive in working with the university to set these things up in place so that we have our collective agreement and it's not being violated. Like that is what basically is the standard of the workplace environment. And if we can prevent the violation of the collective agreement, then we're proactively protecting the members. So we've actually started to establish a training program, which is one of the new gains we made in the collective agreement, is that we're going to be training each department about what is in our collective agreement. So the department heads will get that training, and they're encouraging the faculty to also get that training. And we've started to put that training in place. So understanding the grievance process, understanding the new articles that are there, understanding the difference between our collective agreement versus the faculty collective agreement, et cetera. So I think that's the best way we can prevent any issues. But then we also have the grievance procedure, and that's if it's inevitable. It's unfortunate that there will be violations of the collective agreement, and we need to defend our members who are through the grievance process. And we've shortened the grievance process up, which I think is very valuable. It's shortened the amount of time that leads to some outcome if it goes to arbitration, which is, I think, very important. In the past, it could be a year or 2 years down the road before you get to some resolution. And I think that will be shortened up, which is great. But that's how we defend our members if anything were to be violated. Thanks, Varun.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I have a question.
Let's go ahead.
So a longstanding issue of PSAC 610 in terms of just its collective strength is the fact that there are a lot of graduate student employees on Western's campus who are not unionized. I just want to know whether you actually intend to push for unionization of all graduate student employees during this, the next year, or at least lay the foundation for it.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Aftab. And so we have already started those efforts with, so there are multiple different kinds of, graduate student employees, and the university in some regards is using them as a tactic to reduce our membership as a TA. So they've started to implement what's called a GSA, a graduate student assistant, as opposed to a graduate teaching assistant. And what they're doing with this GSA is they're basically using it as the ability to pay less than the minimum wage that we bargained for in our collective agreement, or they're asking members to work longer hours than the contracts that's given. And the problem is, because they're offering it as a GSA, there's no protection to that individual who could have been offered a GTA-ship, because then you're protected under the union. So we have already began that battle with the university, where we're trying to figure out how diverse of a problem is this? How many departments are there implementing this GSA? And then, we've already began conversations with PSAC Ontario, with our REVP, to then begin to mobilize and potentially unionize this group. There are GRAs, which is a graduate research assistant, and they have been unionized at other universities. And so that's definitely a step we can take towards with PSAC. Now, the university tried to do something tricky, and they tried to say, oh, that's no longer a GRA. Everyone might have received that email where they're no longer calling it a GRA, they're calling a teaching fellowship or something like that. And we think it's a direct reason for trying to prevent unionization of that membership. Now, that doesn't change the fact that it's still a group that likely can be unionized. So yeah, I think that's something, again, I think the more proactive we can be with it, the better. But the problem is with the GSA is we're starting to see them more and more liberally using it as a way to undermine the union. And so getting involved in the conversations with the REVP, which we've done, is the initial steps towards that.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, thanks,
I'm gonna ask
Thank you.
if anyone else has a question for Wes to hold on that question so that we can keep moving. And then at the end, I'll open the floor for everyone else together. So next, we have only one candidate for the admin chair position, and that's Riley. Riley, you have 3 minutes.
Yep, thanks, Carlos. Hi, everybody. For those that I haven't met yet, my name is Riley. I'm the current administrative chair here at the local. I'm currently running for re-election again. Just quick background about me. I'm a third-year PhD student in the Department of Biology. And it's been a very interesting year here at the local. As Wes already mentioned, we moved operations completely online, which is not something that we were even capable of doing before, which is allowed us to continue working for the people, and most importantly, continue to being able to get benefits out. Another key thing I just wanted to highlight here, because I want everybody to know about it, is that this is first year we were able to introduce 2 new funds. That would be a COVID-19 relief fund which includes both funds if you have COVID or a family member has COVID. And we also have working from home funds that will be available very soon that should be added to the financial aid application within the next few days. And last, we were also able to introduce a summer support fund, which will allow us to sort of treat this like a UHIP benefit, in that we have so much money to give out to everybody who applies if you have no funding in the summer. We've also been doing a lot of work with SOGs, which is something that I would like to continue doing in the future. I'll mention that a little bit later before I stop talking. A huge thank you goes out to our staff, Patty and Hasnine, for all their work this year. It was a huge pleasure to be able to work with them. And I would like to be able to continue to do that, as well as working within the office, finding new ways to save, which ultimately means new ways we can spend money on our members. So if I was reelected for this role, my future plans would be to keep a good, engaged, positive, and productive working relationships with you, our members, our staff executives, the SOGS executive and staff, our banking staff, as well as huge, and the university community. We did start rolling out direct deposit. So I would like to continue to roll that out for all of our bank accounts and be able to offer direct deposit to all of our members. That we can get the ball rolling once the elections are over. I would also like to work on administering, along with SOGS, some funds, scholarships, and awards that are currently not being offered, and those would be bringing back the thesis completion fund, which we will jointly, which we will sponsor and then jointly contribute to a GTA appreciation event, as well as community volunteer awards. So I'd like to be able to bring those back. We do have the budget for it this year, which we worked out. So it's just a matter of administering those funds. I would also like to work at reducing operational expenses incurred at the local, especially now with us going so virtual. There are some cost-cutting ways in which we could look into and continue to operate. And finally, I would like to continue working with the amazing committees under the portfolio of the admin chair, specifically the Food Support Committee, Finance Committee, Bylaws, and the Financial Aid Committees. And as well, the cornerstone of our union to continue to work with the university, our members, and to resolve those ongoing issues that are going to lead to grievances.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. Or Carlos.
Does anyone have any questions for Riley? Any questions for Riley? Asmat, I think.
Yeah, hi Riley. I have a
Hi.
question regarding the fund distribution, like COVID fund distribution. How did you work on that? Like, how did you distribute the funds to the people who need the help? What is your strategy on that?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. The COVID relief funds would become part of the financial aid application. And so anybody who is looking to receive those funds can submit that application to the financial aid committee, where they will rank and evaluate based on financial need. So that's how those will be administered. The summer support program is going to be more operated like we operate UHIP. We have $20,000 this year, in which we will just divide that equally by however many number of applicants we have. Hopefully next year we won't have a need for the COVID support fund, and so we could transfer those funds into some other kind of financial aid.
Thank you very much.
Asmat?
Asmat, yeah.
Asmat, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just asking that last time, I think if was remember that I have asked about the travel, funding. Like I said, because of the COVID, everything is closed. So if we will shift that travel allowance or travel funding for our registration side, because now we are doing lots of virtual presentations or conferences. So in the SEC, like it's not include in that travel what we can say form. So if we can do it, because I think we will be locked for 2 or 1 year, and we will be on virtual conferences. So if we will shift that amount for the registration, conference registration fee, because it's nowadays very too much, like $180, $200. So if we will shift it into that.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. And if anybody does have any kind of conference, even if it's just membership or registration, that is something right now that we're currently covering and something we will continue to do, especially when people are not allowed to travel. So we will still give out absolutely as much as we can. We have only had 2 academic applications for financial aid this year, so please apply. I encourage you to apply.
Because last time, even last month, I have applied it, but my form was, send it back to me that we are not covering registration fee. So I went to, SOCS for that, and they guided me that you can go for the SOCS for registration fee, because we are not giving. So I was just thinking in that manner that if it is possible, so, and I would like to ask, since when you are going to apply that registration fee?
It has been applied. I do think I remember your name. So if you have already applied for that and were denied, that's been reversed, and you should see a check already in the mail.
Thanks, Riley.
Yeah.
Next, for the communications chair, we only have 1 candidate so far. Dika, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, everyone. My name is Dika, and I am the current communications chair at PSAC 610. I'm a third-year PhD student in neuroscience. And sorry, I'm just going to set a timer because I know that I will go over time if I don't.
I'm gonna raise my hand when you have 20 seconds left.
Okay, sounds good. So this previous year, obviously, as Wes and Riley have alluded to, has been interesting, to say the least, mostly because we had to move our entire operations online. And so the responsibility of the communications chair, which mostly has an online component because it's entirely based on information dissemination, I need to, as part of this duty, send out emails in a timely manner, put out communications on social media. But interestingly, other things about my responsibilities have changed as a result of the pandemic. So for instance, our handbook, we had to send out all the copies of our handbook, put it up on our website. That was the only way in which we could communicate with new members of the local about basic information about the functioning of the local, and to assist members in filing a grievance and doing all sorts of things related to benefit applications and resources available in local. And now that we're moving back, hopefully, to in-person work. So what I plan on doing is, completely looking at the handbook, printing out copies and putting them, across campus so that new members of the local understand what the union is about, become members of the union, and are able to know their rights as workers, and make sure that those rights are not being violated by the employer. So other future plans. So I've been talking with other members of the current executive, most of whom are rerunning, including the chief steward of the arts and humanities, and we're thinking about doing something where we kind of make the collective agreement more accessible to members. So right now, one of the things that we realize is the collective agreement is the language of the agreement is fairly technical, and it's almost like legalese. So we plan on actually putting a document together in which we have case scenarios of possible ways of, in the past, and the hypothetical ways in which the collective agreement has been violated by the employer, and how to go about sort of filing a grievance and working through that. Just other things I plan on, continuing the work I'm doing in terms of, sending out emails in a timely manner, putting out our messaging on social media, but also I think just bringing a fresh and progressive perspective to the local. One thing that I'm very happy that we've done is we've been involved in a lot of social justice causes. And I hope that you will consider voting for me next Wednesday. Thanks, Carlos.
Thanks, Dika. Do we have any questions for Dika? Questions, anyone? Okay, thanks, Dika. Next, we have only one candidate, Karuna De Souza, for the Racial Equity Chair. Karuna, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Karuna, and I'm running for the position of Racial Equity Chair this year. I'm currently a PhD student at FIMS, and I am currently the Arts and Humanities Chief Steward of the Union, and I've been for the last year. Now, the creation of this position actually has come at a time when Canada has been forced by local and global events to reckon with the issue of racism. So I think it's really apt that this role has been started, because I think it will lead to tangible changes to the current status quo. If elected, I will be the union's representative on Western's recently created Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And as the union's representative, I would like to make sure that the concerns of our racialized members are addressed. And more importantly, that the committee doesn't get away with just lip service in terms of issues of racism on campus. So that they basically are being more focused in the kinds of changes tangible changes that they want to bring about on campus. A large percentage of our racialized members are international students. And I think that they face additional precarity due to their temporary immigration status. And they're also new to Canada and may be unable to respond to or even identify racist actions. And as someone who came to Western as an international student, and someone from India, I've basically had first-hand experience of this, and to understand what racist actions constitute. And I think that these issues leave our members extra vulnerable to exploitation by the member, and this in turn harms our strength as a collective. As Racial Equity Chair, I intend to develop communications for our members that increase awareness and facilitate reporting of racism. I also intend to review all grievances involving racialized complainants to help identify racism. And this all feeds into a long-term plan where the idea is to gather information, issues, and concerns from racialized members to look at the inclusion of racial equity-related demands in the next round of collective bargaining. So I'm going to, like I reiterate, I am not here to preserve the comfortable status quo that exists in Western University and the employer-TA postdoc relationship. Flowery words, gestures, and apologies are less important to me. And what's really important is legally or monetarily quantifiable gains. And I don't think that there is equity without racial equity. And the eradication of racism makes us a stronger union. And we had a very good executive last year, and I hope to continue this work with my friends.
Perfect time. Thanks, Karuna. Do we have any questions for Karuna? Wes, please.
Hey again, hey Karuna. Very excited for this position. I'm curious, what do you think are the first steps of going forward with this position?
One actual tangible thing that I found is the fact that in Western, the EHRS, the Equity and Human Rights Services, Human Rights Services, which is the place that we complain to for actions or racist actions and all of that. If you look up the members on that committee, I don't see a racially visible member. And I think that's a huge problem. And this is one of the first things which is tangible that I want to address being part of the DI committee and from the union itself, perhaps directly.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Karuna. Asmat?
Thank you so much. Karuna, well said. That's very good. But I just have one question that you have said everything about the racial equality and all this. Do you have some concrete plan that how you will, go step by step? What kind of, problem you will target first and then you will go, for the second and third. So at least you have some roadmap. So can you share some roadmap which you have in your planning?
Yeah, so the first thing is to understand what the EDI committee is going to be about, and uh, to sit there with the perspective that I have to. See, I think the first thing is to talk to members. Honestly, is to first understand what issues that members, racialized members, have faced, and I have come with my own experience. These are a few things that I have been able to look at. So the first thing is funding for racialized students, to see what differences, parity of funding across departments. The second thing is looking at the language in the collective agreement to see for racialized members, what are the protections, how can we strengthen that? These are the two spaces that I think to start off with, I will begin. And I'm sure that throughout the process of this, and also because I'm going to be chairing the Social Justice Committee, and in that there will be representatives from various demographics of our membership, who will give inputs as to what exactly that we can work together and achieve.
Thanks, Karuna. Varun, I'll ask you to hold on your question until the end so that we can keep going. Okay, so next, for the Gender Equity Officer, we have two candidates. We have Naima and Sohini. So Naima, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Naima Afroz, and I'm a second year PhD student in civil and environmental engineering. This is my first time I'm running this position. So the reason I'm interested in this position to run is I am a racialized woman, and I was born in a very small village town, and from there, step by step, I came here in Canada. So I was really involved, like I saw how women are underprivileged. I witnessed different child marriage. I witnessed same woman, like same girl who was with same intelligence like me. She didn't do anything in her life, but I am here because I have given all the opportunities. My parents and my friends and my surroundings. So so based on that, basically with women and other gender minorities, I feel like if I can help them in my physical science GTS, and I can talk with them and I can know what is their issues, and if I can help them, so that could be a really good thing for me to work on. And also, like, as I am an woman from physical science engineering, I'm seeing that they're having a lot of problems based on their family, their pregnancy, their management of their family and research, and all, like, a lot of things. So my aim, if I am elected, I will really focus on all the discriminations, all the problems they have to take care of. So going forward, as I'm new, like, my main goal or what I'm thinking to do, first of all, I want to engage with my committee members if I am elected, and I want to know my fellow GTS, like women, what is their problem, or other gender minorities, what is their problems, or how can we solve it. And also, I will just at least try to solve that problem with my fellow committee members too. And also, I have very helpful and good friends who are experienced in this field, they can also help me out in that way. So my aim is to learn and work together. So this is everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Naima. Next, we have Sohini, and we have the questions for both of them at the same time. So please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi everyone, I'm Shohini. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies at Western. As a queer woman of color and as a feminist researcher working on trans and queer activism in India, my life and work is dedicated to amplifying voices of trans and queer communities who are variously marginalized and minoritized. As someone who has both experiential and theoretical knowledge of injustices and inequities pertaining to gender and sexuality and intersecting axes of oppression, I take an intersectional approach to activism. My activism at Western as a part of SOGS and SGPS has primarily revolved around trans and queer rights, accessibility and disability justice, anti-racism and racial equity, and I hope to continue doing this work as an executive member of PSAC. I currently serve as the LGBTQ representative of the Gender Equity Committee of the PSSC and have worked with our outgoing Gender Equity Officer and our wonderful committee members closely. In March of this year, we organized a letter writing event amplifying voices of Black Lives Matter London, missing and murdered Indigenous women, and defund the police movement. We also ran a donation drive at the event and wanted the funds raised to go to sex workers and to those who have been rendered homeless and are particularly hard hit owing to the pandemic. I have been emphasizing the urgency for equity as I believe conversations around intersectionality can hardly be had without foregrounding material concerns. Towards that end, I brought to the attention of the committee fundraisers launched by trans community-based organizations in rural India, and the committee, with the help of the PSSC executive, donated a sum total of $1,200 to trans community organizations in rural Bengal, India, as well as in Colombia. Beyond PSAC, in my role as a queer of color representative of the Anti-Racism Committee at SOGS, I recently organized a discussion session on A. Revati's memoir, The Truth About Me, a Hijra life story, written by an Indian trans sex worker and activist. At the book club, I foregrounded the need to decriminalize sex work, pointed out police brutality against trans sex workers, and the need for affirmative action for trans folks. I am hosting on June 9th a panel in the memory of a trans and disabled activist, Jay, entitled Disability Justice and Queer and Trans Rights, What Jay Would Want You to Know. At SOGS, I regularly hold meetings, organize various events, and work in collaboration with key campus partners to advocate for trans, non-binary and queer rights, accessibility and disability justice, and racial equity and anti-racism. I hope to continue doing this work for PSAC and amplify the voices of the most marginalized who are deserving of equity and affirmative action. Acknowledging the labor of everyone involved with PSAC, I aim to work with its members while taking a justice-oriented, transformation-focused, and difference-aware approach to the critical work that the Gender Equity Committee does. I intend to invite and encourage racialized, disabled, queer and trans communities and women TAs and postdocs to voice their concerns however they might wish to and take their divergent positionalities into account while carrying out the obligations of this office. I will ensure that the Gender Equity Committee makes communication and coordination possible between various committees as well as between all members of PSSC. I intend to act with self-awareness and sincere commitment as best as I can. Thank you for listening, and I hope for your support.
Thanks, Shohini. Okay, so is there any question for either Naima or Shohini or for both of them? Asmat, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. I have question from both of you. Like, if I would say, Sohani, you did very well. But I would like to ask from the PSAC platform that can you discuss few problems which our TA is having from the gender inequality or equality, and how you will solve that problems? I'm just talking about PSAC, okay? I'm not talking about SOGS or any other things. I'm just talking about PSAC community, that what kind of problem we have as a TAs, okay? And how you will solve. Do you have any plan?
Thanks, Asmat. Was that for Shohini or for Naima?
Sorry, it's up from Sohini.
I believe that when someone comes to me for me to address a grievance, I truly believe that what they want has to be foregrounded, and I'll make sure that I listen to them because I think listening is feminist praxis. I will ensure that their concerns are foregrounded. I'll amplify their voices and work with them collaboratively and make sure that what they want is brought to the executive, and I'll act accordingly, according to their wishes, according to their aspirations. I will, and this is something I've learned from my own activist work. You need to sometimes know how to decenter yourself and not impose perhaps your ideas on a person who has come to you to address certain grievances. So I will listen, I'll collaborate, I will work with the person or persons concerned and do my best to address the issues and concerns that emerge. Thank you.
Thanks, Sohini. Naima?
I just go for one question, like it's leading from Sohini. I asked Sohini about the problems as a TA, which kind of racial or inequality problem we are facing. Do you have any information, any knowledge regarding it? Because do you have that information that we, being a TA, we have some transgender persons or some, what kind of problem do we have being a TA in Western? I'm just asking about this thing. Do you have any information that we are having some kind of problem?
Thank you for your question, Asmat. I think it's a very important question. I do think that we can't universalize all problems because they all look different because of our divergent positionalities. So even a queer person, and I am a queer person, I can't say that another queer person will have the same problem as me as a TA. So I think it's really individualistic, and we need to sit down with the person who has come with us with their specific concerns and address those concerns in a context-specific manner, and make sure that we understand the problem before addressing it. And it is sometimes helpful to first listen and understand and then act on it. So without forming preconceived notions, it is better to listen to the person concerned and then arrive at a judgment.
Thanks, Sohini. Naima, do you have any words?
Yeah, like what Sohini told, I agree with her basically. So it is not basically it's specific person to person. So I cannot generalize it or universalize it. But for TS for regarding gender, I would say like I can tell you one example. So one of my friends, she was in a research group in my master's. So she had like some sexual harassment from the professor. So she was like, she doesn't know what to do at the time. So this kind of thing can be happening. I saw during my master's time. And also, I also know that like the girls, when they have families, so they are like juggling, how can they maintain family and the research? Because professors sometimes like you never know if they are, they know that or they understand, they realize your problem. So sometimes the person, like the woman, she's thinking, how can I talk this with him or something? So she feel that she has fear, or she feel that like maybe I should not tell this, or like how can I address this? So this is the problems I saw in my.
Thanks, Naima. We have time for one more question for both of them. Maza, please.
Thank you. So I noticed that there are certain there are problems with female GTAs. There are more problems in some departments than the other. So what's your strategy to identify which departments require more attention? And also my second question is, how do you want to raise awareness of the rights of the females, especially the newcomers, the new students, new GTAs who are new to the environment and they may not know their rights?
Thanks, Masa. Naima, you go first now.
So for me, the best thing what I can think now is the engagement. So first, like before I apply for this position or think about this position, I thought I need to be talking with them basically. So in my physical science department, I can tell that, okay, like I have some plan, and first of all I will have my communication with my members, like my friends and like my colleagues, and then I can like make a concrete list that how can I go forward, like maybe I'll engage, or like maybe I'll send an like email or something like this to like, or we have the like email procedure. I can email or something if that's the like procedure permits me. So that was I was thinking, but still now I'm really into it, and I'm planning to learn this. So that's everything. In future, I'll develop more.
Thank you. Shohini?
I think that's also another great question. I think I work very well in collaboration with other actors at SOGS, and I would continue doing this at PSAC as well. So I want to hold a town hall with women, transgender, queer, and non-binary TAs, where all the departmental stewards and faculty stewards will be present. So they, from their experiential knowledge, can voice concerns. And we should be in a position to also address the concerns that have emerged in the past and concerns that have been recurring, really. Those we have addressed, those remain to be addressed. So in sort of forming this comprehensive kind of response, or at least to pay attention to the complexity of these identities and take a feminist approach to how we go about doing this is going to be very important. And as somebody who is deeply involved in queer and trans rights, accessibility and racial equity, I do think I am going to be difference aware in addressing concerns of women, TAs, and not assume homogeneity and not expect homogeneity from them. I am going to take their divergent positionalities into account. Are they minoritized? Are they single parents? What is it that keeps them from doing their work, or what is it that makes it difficult for them to do their work? So I think having that intersectional awareness is going to be important, and has always been important for me in this work as a queer feminist intersectional activist and researcher. So I will continue doing this work in this platform and in this community as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Shohini. Next, we have only one candidate for the position of Chief Steward, Arts and Humanities. Varun, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Can people hear me? I had something written down, but I'm just going to have an honest conversation here. My name is Varun. I'm a second-year doctoral student in the philosophy department, and I've been a steward for our union for the last 2 years. I'm an international student, so when I first joined Western, I was kind of new to the concept of what a union is. But in my position as a steward, I've learned more about the importance of unionization and more generally about the labor movement. So now I seek to bring an international student's lens to the position of Chief Steward of Arts and Humanities. And I would like to engage in, let's say, 3 broad goals. One is to have more underrepresented voices heard in the position of stewards in each art and humanity department. Because usually the positions are occupied by people who are really, how do you say this? They're kind of interested, but one platform for underrepresented groups to voice their concerns is this position of steward. So one is to engage representation. So one goal is to engage representation. A second goal would be to enhance engagement. Graduate students are very busy with their research work. They have their other, they have other lives. So one way to make it more accessible, as pointed out by the previous candidates, maybe have more workshops, send more emails, make the legalese more accessible. The second goal would be to enhance engagement in each department in the arts and humanities division. And the third would be the most important, which is action, to identify issues facing each department as well as the arts and humanities collectively. We can probably work on this through surveys or maybe through a town hall. And this was organized by the previous chief steward, a town hall about economic precarity for the arts and humanities. And one issue that came up was summer funding. Not a lot of departments get summer funding. So maybe that's one goal I would like to work on collectively, not as just the chief steward, but collectively as the PSAC executive, PSAC 610 executive, in collaboration with SOGS, because the PSAC 610's purview is strictly related to the collective agreement, and issues about some summer funding kind of falls under the jurisdiction of SOGS. But we can work together on such a collective issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Varun. Do we have any questions for Varun?
So Varun, I have a question for you. So as you told that, like when you first engaged in PSSC, so how did you get comfortable with the rules, regulations, and your work as a new elected member?
So can you just repeat? Are you asking about what happened when I first joined?
How did you get familiar with these rules, regulations, and everything to work like?
So I'm going to speak from lived experience. I'm an international student. When I first came, I just volunteered for the role, having no idea of what was going on, what it was about. And I learned about the roles, responsibilities on the job. Sometimes, that's the best way to learn the position, what it entails. But now I think I would be more prepared. I think I'm now prepared more for the position of chief steward because I joined as a steward. But because I've been in regular conversations with the current chief steward, learning about the difficult issues facing each department. For example, these are brought up. I'm not going to reiterate them. For example, the GSA versus GTA issue, TAs working over their contract hours. So these are kind of broad issues facing each department in the arts and humanities faculty. So now I would say I'm well prepared to take on the role of chief steward, having experienced what the chief steward does at the departmental level as a steward. I hope this answers your question, Naima.
Thanks, Varun.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other question before we proceed? Okay, thanks, Varun. So we are skipping Chief Steward Social Science because we have no candidates so far. So next we have the Chief Steward Physical Science. Maza, you have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Carlos. Hi, everyone. My name is Mahsa Batagua, and I've been working with PSAC, our local 610, for past 5 years. When I joined Western, I was a steward for electrical and computer engineering for 2 years. Then in 2018, I joined PSAC Executive Committee as a physical sciences chief steward for a year. And when in the last 2 years, I also was the steward for biomedical engineering. So I'm running for the physical sciences chief steward position again, and my goals are to, considering that physical sciences division is the largest division in our university, we need to mobilize more with our members and engage members more, because through solidarity events, through emails, through a couple of events that steward meetings or any other events that we can engage our members. And we definitely want to, like, my goal is to definitely have stewards from each department to make sure that we know what is going on each department, so that the members, the GTA members, can raise their concerns and their needs. So at the executive committee, we can work toward finding the resolution or solving the problem. One thing I feel that it needs improvement is to raise awareness of the rights and responsibilities of the GTAs, specifically the new members that are joining our under the umbrella of PSAC Local 610, and inform them about what their rights are, what their responsibilities are, what are the resources that they can benefit from, and what are the benefits that are out there and then they can use and if they need them. And so in the past, I've filed and handled grievances, and which I could resolve the issue in early stages, but I hope this would never happen. But in case this happens, I am fully aware of the process, and I can help our members in that regard. And okay, that's all, and I seek your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Masa. Does anyone have any questions for Masa? Any questions for Masa? Okay, thanks, Masa.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Chief Steward Bioscience. Abby, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Sorry, that lighting's really bad. Okay. Hi. So as Carlos said, my name is Abby, and I'm running for the Chief Biology Steward. And I actually got involved in the union this past year, and my role is just a steward. So I'm like one step below the Chief Steward currently. In the past year, I focused mainly on just talking to people in my department because I'm a first-year master's student in the biological sciences, first of all. And just from chatting with friends and other, like I'm also a member of SOBGS, where I acted as the PSAC representative. I heard about a lot of experiences that people had as TAs where they were doing a lot of things that I realized weren't their responsibilities as TAs. Or even in talking to friends after I became educated, I realized a lot of people didn't realize all the benefits that we have in the union, all the financial compensations, and there's a lot that us TAs aren't aware of just because, like, as I believe someone else mentioned before, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it, but the language of the collective agreement is a little bit hard to get through at times. So I think it is really, really important. One of the main things I want to do is, first of all, recruit stewards for every department that I can, fill every spot so that I have a direct route to each of these departments, because it can be difficult. There's so many within biological sciences, like there's neuroscience, a million of them. And then that way I can have a person to relay this information. I can hold more solidarity events to reach a wider audience of people so that we can really, really start applying for these benefits, like the COVID relief, like the food assistance programs, or even just certain leaves that I was not aware of, like the gender affirmation surgery leave that you can get up to 4 months, totally paid, things like that. So that will be my main concern as Chief Steward. And I plan to do like outreach through my work at SOBGS. I would like to be representative with them again, just because it's a great way to reach out to all the biology students, of course. And I'm also helping to plan the Biology Research Forum this coming October. And I can see Soren's here right now. He's leading it, but that's another great way for me to engage with our members, is to speak with them at that research event. And I'm also part of the outreach committee on that team, which is also how I'd like to talk to people and just get the word out. So, and that is everything for me as of right now. Also, I did hold a solidarity event today, and I can see a couple of familiar names. So thank you everyone for coming by. I really appreciate your support. And I'm hoping to see you again next week at the elections. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Abby. Do we have any questions for Abby? Jeff, go ahead.
I think that's a clap. That's an
applause.
applause.
Sorry, you're right. Any questions for Abby? Okay, thanks, Abby.
Thank you, Carlos.
Now, last but not least, we have the Chief Steward postdoc, the candidate Arthur. You can go ahead. And the position after his, so postdoc chair, we have, it's empty at this point. So please, Arthur, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, hope you can all hear me. Yeah, so my name is Arthur Sidham. I'm a postdoc in the chemistry department. So I'm on NSERC, so I'll probably be around for a couple of years. I saw the position was still open for a postdoc steward as of the third round of calls, and I know from the fact that the postdoc steward position chairs the financial assistance committee, as well as how important the grievance process can be for postdocs. It's a lot more precarious than maybe it's basically contract employment at the end of the day, and so it can be quite precarious. So I thought the grievance procedure there is something it's important to have a steward guiding members through that process, and so I've put my name up. Like I think almost every postdoc I've ever met, incredibly busy. Hopefully I haven't bitten off more than I can chew. Certainly, if there was another postdoc who wants to take that position, you are more than welcome to. But it's one that I think needs to be filled by somebody. And hopefully, if I'm the only person with my name up there, I can do a good job.
Thanks, Arthur. Does anyone have any questions for Arthur?
Any advice?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this is a question, more like a friendly just chat right now, because I just read your statement. With this position, I mean, all chief steward positions kind of involve a degree of proactiveness and not reactiveness. So actively seeking out what issues, let's say, for example, postdocs face, not only in the chemistry department, but in the arts and humanities. Do you envision that you might have the time to, because I know postdocs are very busy. I have a lot of friends who are postdocs, so it involves a lot of proactiveness. So maybe not a word of advice, but just asking, it involves proactiveness. So do you anticipate, what can be done, or you're just going to, be more reactive rather than proactive? What do you see? What do you see for this position?
I honestly saw my role more as reactive. I've never been involved on the union side of things. I've been involved in students associations when I was an undergrad and whatnot in graduate school, but never on this side of things involved with a collective agreement. The only reason I put my name up was because I didn't see any other candidates with their names up there. So I'm not sure. I figured somebody is better than nobody when it comes to this kind of thing. So no, I didn't really see. I know it says holding some kind of event, at some point during the year. So hopefully I can make time for that, but I didn't. I wouldn't even know where to start in terms of trying to be proactive about that.
Yeah, I think I just gave a, let you know what you might be getting yourselves into, but no problem. Good job for volunteering. Great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Dika, go ahead.
Hi, Arthur. Yeah, good. Thanks for putting your name forward for this position. So my question is, so this is my third year in the local, and one of the things that I've noticed is postdocs are not as, at least in terms of just the numbers, not as involved in the union as TAs. In this position, can you think of any way that you can increase the sort of participation of postdocs in like the union activities and things like that?
I'm going to be realistic and say not really. It's really like if you come out of graduate school out of your PhD and you secure a postdoc position, like you're usually like nose to the grindstone the entire time. This isn't even really advisable. This wouldn't be like, it's not a very smart career move, like dividing my time to do stewardship at all. Like it's probably better if I just sat down and continued to write papers and whatnot. But in terms of getting other postdocs like more involved in the union,
yeah.
I mean, they'll be involved if they have a grievance. Then they'll be involved because it's basically contract work. But I mean, in terms of like on a proactive sense, like solidarity and whatnot, I have no idea. It actually surprised me when I saw that the postdoc union and the TA union were under the same umbrella. I thought that was a little bit initially a little bit surprising when reading the emails. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of pessimistic, but I've never done this before. Yep.
That's right. Thanks.
Okay, we have Corona.
Yeah. Hi, Arthur. I'm very glad that you've applied, because you're right. I don't think postdocs see this as part of something that they need to be involved in, but it is important that they are involved in, especially in the context that how I understand it is that a lot of postdocs may be international people who may or may not understand Canada, and its intricacies of the benefits and things like that they need to. So part of your role, and I think I'm saying this out loud because this is what I see, is the information transfer of saying that this is what you can access, this is what you have a right to unionize, you have a right to a grievance. The other thing is that some and bring in race also into this, and racial minorities will be more afraid of complaining, because now again immigration status will be an issue, as well as your work. So these are some things that I think that the postdocs also should kind of focus on.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's incredibly precarious if you lose. If you get there for probation, I think it's like 4 months, and then if something happens and that gets cut, that's very devastating to your career. Like, it's the kind of thing that most people, even domestic postdocs, will usually just look to get through, because it's a pretty demanding part before you get some kind of solid career. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. International postdocs, it's even crazier because of the immigration and just being new to the Canadian system.
Thank you. So now we're done with all the candidates. They had time to sell themselves a little bit. There was a great debate. Thanks everyone for coming. Now, before we go, I just want to remind you that we still have the 2 positions open. So, and of course, we're still accepting nominations for the other positions. So everyone is welcome to put their nomination forward. And you also need someone to second your nomination, so don't forget about that. And before we go, does anyone have any final remarks? Asa?
Oh, thank you. We're running a town hall for physical sciences, GTAs and postdocs. So if they have any questions, if any of the members here are from physical sciences and want to discuss some questions or what our plans are, we are running a town hall on Monday, June 7th from 4:30 to 5:30. You can find the event on Facebook. We would be happy to answer your questions if you have any. You can pass this information to your colleagues and friends from Physical Sciences Division. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a final remark before we go? Wes?
Thanks, Carlos. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, to you, Carlos, for setting this up, and for all the candidates. I know it's always a struggle to get members involved every year, and so we're really appreciative of those who just do it out of towards supporting the union and what we can do through a union. So thank you, everybody. We're going to keep pushing for more mobilization from postdocs, from TAs, and try to get the members involved as possible. So thanks, Carlos.
Thanks, Wes. Tika?
Yes, just partly to echo what Wes just said, but also just to ask you, Carlos, about how we plan on putting this on Facebook. Are we going to work to do that after this? Like, how's that going to work?
Yes, I'm recording this here now, and I can share the file with you so that you can post.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I don't see more questions. So thanks everyone for your time. I hope you found this time productive. I'm sorry we went 12 minutes over the limit. And I hope to see everyone next week. Have a good night.